today's video, a bit of a crazy deck actually, just sort of decided this deck would be quite sublime. And you know what it was, went I think 8-1 for the 8k, so that's pretty nice. First game against a little bit of log bait cycle, so I go for the giant skeleton. Nice timing, not taking too much from the god barrel, and then this sort of matchup, he's got a lot of small troops, but other than the Mighty Miner, just hasn't really got the DPS. So we know, like this, he kind of has to defend the flying machine with a rocket or something. Mighty Miner bomb potentially, because he doesn't have the best counters. I think especially with this sort of deck, a lot of fireball bait. Often they're kind of stuck with, they only have one big spell, what are they going to hit? And they can't hit everything, which is quite delightful. So I think here, just go for a healer, take out the princess. He might try and protect it, but with the zap it should be alright. He goes for a cannon, and then that was actually a very nice zap. Healer stays alive, and got a furnace on the board. A few fire spirits forcing out his fire spirit. And then we can go for a giant scatter in the back in order to predict the goblin barrel. Nice. And at this point, we're in a very good situation in which we're likely to just win. If he goes for Mighty Miner, he doesn't know we have zappies, we play them at the bridge, and he can't defend that lane plus pigs. Basically, whatever he does here, it's not really possible. Potentially a rocket and then just take a lot of damage from the pigs he could have done. But I don't think he could have done so much against that. I think, the right hand, and considering he didn't know the deck, because it's kind of a soft meta, basically free win. Wonderful. So, that's a nice, easy way to start it off. I guess just finish for the 3 crown, he gave up. Simple. Even against cycle decks, maybe haven't got the best counters, other than mirror zap for the goblin barrels. Still seems to work out pretty well. So I think it's quite a strong deck, especially given the current kind of trashy E-Giant Moron meta. Seems to be pretty defendable with mirror zappies plus a building. So next game against Aaron, good player, mortar as usual. So I guess at the start we're just sort of deducing which version. Just kind of have a myriad of fireball bait. Consequently, sure, he has fireball or rocket. We don't really know at this point, but probably fireball, because it seems what all the mortar players are playing at the moment. And then, he's only got one fireball. Maybe Valk, good pigs counter, but giant skeleton's always putting a lot of pressure. They have to over-defend. Often you see people just tend to make a loss just from the giant skeleton. Like there, we're up maybe 2. We can just set up with a healer at the back or something, go zappies if we want. I think healer, it's a bit underrated. Sure, it's not the best in any meta deck, but I think for off-meta decks, especially this sort of thing, where you've got a lot of mid-health troops, like the zappies, pigs, flying machine, a lot of the time the healer can be very handy for that. Like here, if he doesn't go for fireball plus log, he does healing up the pigs, and all of a sudden the fireball seems like a bit of a waste. And again, gotta go for skellies, and the healer's still gonna get a decent amount of damage on tower. Often as well, for 4, you're sort of using it as a meat shield, just like tank, decent amount of damage, but just tank for the mortar, tank for queen ability, whatever it may be. And that tends to be, when you're not able to build a push with the healer, probably the best play. So giant scout in the bridge, again, he hasn't got great counters, and it's just so fat. It's morbidly obese. I just don't quite understand how it's moving. But you know what? I cannot complain, because it allows for one of my favourite plays in single. Giant skeleton mirror, same lane, so they push each other closer to tower. Especially efficient against this sort of mortar deck, where he hasn't got a lot of DPS. He'll have to play his Valk, his Musk, and it's still going to do some heavy damage. So here we can set up with zappies at the back. We know he's going to drill, so we just want to cycle to giant skeleton, because that's probably our best counter. So we can go for the furnace, the giant skeleton. Healer's still there, sort of tanking for the tower and the mortar for a bit, doing a bit of damage also. And there, these sort of high flying machines just controlling the middle. He's going to have to spend fire spirits plus maybe a fireball sometimes. So there we force out the fireball on the left. And then what he doesn't know is we've got the mirror. The mirror can be used in single if necessary, but also as a surprise card. At some point, when we're going to go with the mirror, we're just going to take out a lot of the tower because he doesn't have Fireball, he doesn't have Valk, and Mirror Pigs have quite a lot of health, high DPS, and so potential for Mirror Giant Skeleton, good play also, or just mirroring the Fireball bait troops. So I think here we go for our Mirror for the first time, and then then again we have the Flying Machine controlling the center, Fire Spirit's chipping away at all his defensive units, and we know that the first Giant Skeleton, the bomb's going to kill the Musk pretty much in the Valk, so we've got another one pressuring. We've got Pigs on the left. We can zap to take out the Musk. Then the healer's probably going to heal the Pigs a little, or not, but at least that big Giant Skeleton. And now, we're up a lot of elixir. We've got Giant Skeleton being healed. So you see, he doesn't have the DPS to kill it, so we have the Musk end up dying to the bomb. He misses the Drill Kite, and it's game. He just loses. Giant Skeleton, too much pressure, too much damage from the bomb. Perfect. I mean, he couldn't have done much anyway, I think, even if he'd kited that, but yeah, best multiplayer. Finish, pretty much. The mirrors, the Giant Skeleton pressure, Druidinum, both lanes, at all times. You can do so much with this deck, so much outplay potential. Quite scintillating, to be honest. So, next game, it's an ISO player. To be honest, I think this sort of matchup should be pretty easy, because of the fact he has Rocket, not Fireball. And also, Flying Machine can always be sniping the Ice Bow, should always have one in hand, including the Mirror, and then Giant Skeleton can always block it off if necessary. So we make the first move, because I don't like to wait, but also, we're hoping he maybe goes Ice Bow, opposite lane, and then we can just win from the fact that he doesn't know the deck. So we go for the healer, and he's got Queen in the back. So at that point, you can always set up a Giant Skeleton. We know if he goes Expo, he's going to lose, and why would he go offensive Expo when he has to defend Giant Skeleton? And so I guess for a high Valk, it's probably the smart play. Knowing he has Expo, we can just set up a Furnace, because that will tank for the Expo if necessary. Go for the Flying Machine to DPS the Valk and the Queen. Queen will end up dying. Decent NATO, I guess. But still, the Flying Machine, a lot of damage, and he's got to defend the rest of the Furnace, which he can do quite nicely with an Electro Spirit. Well, maybe it wasn't the best Electro Spirit, because it only killed one Fire Spirit. But, yeah, he can go for the log and a bit of tower damage. I mean, decently played by him so far, and I think he knows he just kind of has to defend, probably assuming I'm playing... I don't know what he would assume that I'm playing with these sort of weird cards. But, anyways, we can go for the healer at the back again. I think often, healer also, the opponent kind of always has to respond. So that's quite nice. He's using his Valk, probably his best defensive option for the healer, because he can't just leave it, and the Tesla would have died, so it wouldn't just kill it. And then here, perfect opportunity to go for Mirror Giant Skelly. I mean, Queen's dead. He might even have to spend a little bit more. And then he has the cycle cards to get back to his defensive troops, like the Valk, the Tesla. So he's basically wasted 3 on that. We can control the middle with a Flying Machine again, always taking out those central buildings. And then at this point, we can go for Pigs. And to be honest, I probably should have Pigs the same lane, because that was a nice rocket, actually. And a bad healer also. But I don't mind too much, because he was bound to get King Activation, and we're up to like 500 from that single Pig, which is nice. And so, set up the Giant Skelly, and then this beautiful timing on the Mirror Giant Skelly just before the Expo logs. We had Zap in hand if necessary, but that way we can just pressure a little bit more. Again, the central Flying Machine, it's quite a nice Queen locking onto the Flying Machine. And so yeah, it's a nice Queen action on his part. We can pressure with the Pigs. And he's forced to spend a lot on the Giant Skellies, and he hasn't got, other than Valk, the best defensive counters, because he doesn't have the Fireball. He's going to have to rocket at some point. Then I get like a Pig's Flying Machine push. We can just continue to plonk some Giant Skellies at the back. So here we go for the Mirror Furnace and actually the healer, because you don't want the Mirror Furnace to take any damage, because we're just controlling the game at this point. And we just want to have some furnaces up, because if he chooses to go Expo in the middle, which would probably be a mistake, and I think he does that here, we know that, sure, he can lock on the furnace, but then he has basically no potential to attack, and unless he rocket cycles, he's just not going to win. There's not really an option for him to break through, because we have quite a lot of tanky troops. Like, sure, we can go for a NATO, kind of useless. So at this point, yeah, mirror the flying machine because we know the Valk's going to die, and then we can go for the pigs and he's going to have to rock it. There's no other way to defend that. And then also damage on the right, the chip from the other flying machine. So yeah, he goes for the rocket as predicted. And we can just do the same thing. Sort of rinse and repeat. And that's probably a good expo, but with these sort of counters, yeah, I mean, we can zap that back onto the healer, and nice easy defense, very little damage. We can go in for the pigs on the right because he's utilised his Valk on the left, and then we can go for the mirror pigs because he has basically no counters, unless he chooses to rocket, and he missed 2, so it wasn't the best rocket. And we also have the giant skeleton going for the queen. We have the healer there as well doing a bit. And then you have the flying machine lock. We have the zappies to predict the E-Spirit, take that out. And yeah, we just win. Simple. Quite an easy matchup. GG's. On to the next one. I mean, we did win like 6 in a row for 8k. And I think 8-1 total with the deck. So, seems pretty solid against most matchups. Although we tended to play, I'd say, the more skillful side of the meta. Sort of cycle decks. Mortar also. That sort of stuff. And a bit of drill cycle, I don't know if I could call that skill, sort of spamming. I guess to an extent. So as usual, a nice start. We've got the furnace in hand. You basically always want to set up the furnace because it's nice to have a defensive building. And it's going to get value just spawning those fire spirits. And then we can do the central flying machine, control the game. As usual, but always take out those mortars where possible. Or if he chooses to defend it, forcing out the fire spirit. So straight away, he uses Valk, basically dead, no damage, 1 fire spirit on the left, and at this point, he doesn't have any DPS pretty much unless he cycles. So we can go for the giant skelly pushers. And maybe it should have been 1 more tile to the left, but you see, look at the mass, it's beautiful. It's pretty close to tower. He's forced to cycle to his Valk, his other defensive troops. The Valk's pretty much dead, I guess. The Queen's dead also from the bomb. And it's just a decent start. I mean, we can just do that. Barely making a loss. In fact, we're up elixir. You can probably go for a miner here. That might have been the play, a miner plus ability. But yeah, there we go. The healer just tanking. Basically does nothing. But we can go with the pig split also. He goes for mortar plus skellies. We can zap that, take it out fast. And then that zap's just going to get guaranteed to get some chip plus force out of fire spirit. So we have easy chip. And that sort of equates to the fire spirit damage we took on the left side. And so it's a pretty nice position. I mean, especially with this sort of deck, with a lot of heavy-ish troops, if you can just defend in single, you should be able to win almost every matchup, because you can just stack massive pushes on both sides. And often with the healers, mirror healers also, where possible, it's just challenging to defend. So I think here, once again, we can go for 1 giant skelly, and then he's forced to queen or Valk, or both. We can set up another giant skelly is always the play. And then I assume we're going to go for the flying machine in the middle, always. Just to rinse and repeat. We force out the fireball, and at that point, we know that we've got a bit of an upper hand here. Because we've got the healer with the giant skeleton, queen dead. We can Zappies to take out the queen, plus have a bit of, that'll tank for the mortar also. He's forced to miner. So now, we know he's going to fireball those pigs, in which he misses some. And then we can go with the flying machine also, and the healer putting in massive work on the giant skelly. And so there we go, giant skelly plus healer, and surprisingly effective combo. We go for the healer at the bridge to try and heal the flying machine a little. Flying machine on the tower to get a little bit of chip, but we have more chip on the right. But to be honest, we're going to get a lot of dual lane damage with this sort of deck. And then we can just set up a giant skelly at the back. He goes for an offensive mortar, probably a good play, because we can defend it with the furnace, and then we know he's going to mine in the back, so we can take out the queen with the zappies. But it was good from him, forcing out quite a lot of elixir on our end, making us defend also. And so then again, we have the furnace spawning, and we can go for the first set of pigs. He's fireballed on the left this time, and since that mortar's locked onto the giant skelly, we can go for a second set of pigs at the bridge. And that's just a bit ridiculous. But we know he's got a cycle to a Valk. And but either way, the Valk's late plus skellies, that's going to get a lot of damage. Tower down to about 1300. Super, super nice play, even though it was Pig's Mirror at the bridge. And we can, healer tanking for the mortar. We can go with the flying machine. Sure, miner and tower, we can ignore that though, because we know He's going to have to do quite a lot more minor fireball combos in order to take out the tower, whereas we can just break through with one large push, I think. So we can set up Zappy's split. We don't want to take the Fire Spirit damage, so we do go for a Giant Skelly there, and it's definitely the correct play, because it's harder for him to get damage, but we know if it gets to cycling for damage, he's definitely going to win with the minor, and the fireball is much faster than our sort of playing pigs and hoping. So quite a bad Fire Spirit taken out by the two Zappies, but if he fireballs, he missed the Flying Machine, and we have the Mirror Pigs, and we can go with the Healer at the bridge also. He has to go for a very odd position for the Mortar, zap the Skellies, plus set up another Flying Machine for his Fireball. Pigs the bridge again, Overwhelm, beautiful. I mean, this is divine. I wouldn't call it extensive brain power, but I would say it's divine. Certainly. It's just sort of having the myriad of troops. All of the troops. Just unlimited fireball bait, pretty much. And so we're beating all these fireball players. And here, Arden Towers, decent player. I think CRO, odd Bandit Fire Spirit, and yeah, we can just set up with the Giant Skelly. We know he's playing Drill from that, so we can go with the Flying Machine. He has the Fireball, and straight away, we know he's got Fireball like pretty much all of our opponents today. So we can go for Pigs at the bridge, which is definitely the right play, because we know he'll have to go with Bandit or Inferno Tower, plus something else, and then we can just Zappy to defend. So a bit of chip from the Pigs, nice, about 700. And so it's just a nice start. Here, unfortunately, we do miss the Zappies, but I would say it's actually not too bad, because we don't take too much damage, and we're going to force out Fire Spirit or Bomber on the right, which I just don't want to have to defend with the next drill push, so it's quite nice. Yeah, ends up playing the Fire Spirit, and a bit of chip from the Zappies. And so even though I guess that was a micro mistake, because of good macro, it's still winnable. So we go for the Healer, and we go for Giant Skeleton and just take out the drill before we can spawn another one. Healer's essentially healing for the damage the Goblins do. And here, one more elixir we do win, so it's quite unfortunate that we can't go for Flying Machine plus Zap. So we opt for the Zap, and it works out. Healer healing the Giant Skelly, the bomb still gets the Inferno Tower, Healer plus 1 or 2 hits. And so it tends to work out, and a little damage on the Bandit. We can go for Flying Machine to snipe it, knowing he's going to drill. Yeah. And then Zappies to defend the drill. Went for drill at the back. I don't think it was the best drill, but did a bit of damage, so fair enough. Flying Machine also a bit of chip, despite the Skellies defending. And so at this point, we're in a surprisingly good spot, I think, because we know just want a good breakthrough, and it's winnable, even though he has the Fireball cycle. So we go for Healer, because we want that Furnace. Furnace up, always forcing small troops, and we have the Mirror Healer. It's not a play you see often in the top 100, or like 950 trophies, but I mean, he just can't defend. He doesn't have the Fireball, so we can take out the Inferno Tower with a nice snipe Flying Machine. Excellent Zap. Go for Pigs as well, because he still doesn't have the Fireball, and now he cannot Fireball the Pigs and the Flying Machine. We have the Healer healing the Pigs and Flying Machine, and that Flying Machine has just become unkillable. That's incredible. The secondary Healer healing the Flying Machine again, and it's Tower. We know at this point we're up a load of elixir, so we can go for Giant Skeleton in the pocket plus Flying Machine, and he can't defend it. He knows he made an error. Yeah, he knows he made that error by going with the Bandit. And so we can actually probably still defend this drill. He can go for Fireball in defense if he wants, but it's Tower. Nice 2 crown. He doesn't even take ours. And that is beautiful. That is very well played to an extent. The healers were good. Healer plus Flying Machine, underrated combo. People don't know, but it's working. It counters the meta decks. It seems to be excellent. And so the final game got us AK. He has a #1 global tournament finish. That's pretty impressive. And so this sort of starting hand is pretty decent. We can defend there if we need to. We can attack if we need to. We have Healer as well. But we choose, because we know it's a multiplayer once again, go for the split Zappies. We don't know what version yet, but we'll probably see. Yeah, he goes for Queen, so at that point we know it's definitely a winnable matchup. Sure, he's probably going to have Fireball, but we have enough Fireball bait plus the Healer, because especially Healer plus certain mirror troops that won't die to the Fireball can be quite devastating, as we've already seen. And so yeah, Healer was the meat shield once again. And we can probably go for the pigs here. We opt for all in one lane, so we can go for Valk plus Log, that's fine. A little bit any chip, I'm not even sure. But pretty good defense. But yeah, he's suffering from the same sort of trauma of just a serious lack of DPS. So I mean, we can go for these giant skellies. Probably go for the juicy giant skelly. Oh wow, mirror same lane, so skillful, so much skill. And we've almost pushed it to tower, but so I think it's gonna have to force out a log, because otherwise, yeah. So we're forcing out the log. Valk's actually dead, so he's definitely gonna have to go for the ice spirit as well. And then we know we can just slap his on defense. Simple, simple, simple. And I mean, like, you can get away with Mirror Giant Skelly at the bridge in single. That shows you it's a good deck. And it's also a lot of fun to play. Certain combos that you just don't tend to see. And so, nice app on the bats, nice and fast. Forcing out, yeah. There you go. Certain things, like, normally, any triple 4 that's just low DPS, not that much health, you'd have to leave. But with a healer, he has to spend the mana to defend, because otherwise it's just going to be a lot of damage, healing the majority of the DPS from the tower itself. And so, I don't agree with that mortar. That's upsetting to watch, because it was just horrific. I mean, it's basically just giving me a free push, then fireballing that, and then we know that we can go in. Giant Skelly one-hitting the Iceberg as well, beautiful. And so we know we can start setting up healers. We can do a second if necessary. And yeah, so we've gotten a nice double healer push, and then we can go for Zappies on the mortar, because even if he logs, pretty much dead. And then we can split pigs here. He actually ends up going 3-1, because I think it was pulled by the mortar. But he has to fireball the right because of the two healers. And yeah, chip damage, beautiful. And healer's still getting a bit of damage, nice. So we're forcing out the queen as well. And then this was an excellent mortar actually, because he knows he can miner and kite that back. But then we can go with healer the first time, tank for the mortar, the second time to heal the giant skelly and kill the queen. And then we know he's going to have to go for an ice spirit on the healer on the right, and that's excellent. The healer won't even die from the queen somehow, will, but manages to tank. And then we can go for the central flying machine, control the game, force out 4 from the fireball. Then we know we can keep doing this, and we're definitely going to overwhelm. So he has to go for the miner and defense, and then we can set up a massive giant skelly push, dual lane also. It just makes it challenging for him. I think even the best players, like, it's not easy to defend a lot of elixir when you can't do that much damage. So we can go for the healer on the right, because we know we're facing a Valk, so might as well heal the giant skelly. Nice ice spirit, so we can go for central pigs. And so we're building these massive double lane pushes. He's used his fireball. We've got the healer on the right still. Now it's on tower, healing that single pig as well. And then it's just all this pluralist push policy. Dual lane, quite divine. Gonna have the bats to kill the fire spirit. We're up in damage by 1,000. I mean, it's excellent. It's just feels so easy playing Giant Skelly in this current meta. So we can set up for the same double Giant Skelly push. We can go for Zappy split in case he goes for mine or something. Once again, the flying machine, take out the mortar plus healer. And we can go in for pigs as well on the right, because mortar's pretty much dead. Valk's gonna die there. First fireball, mirror pigs. Always such a good play. We can Zappy's the bridge, because at this point we're just overwhelming. We can actually fly machine in the center, and we have the giant skelly bomb on the left, also on tower because of that Zappy. He can probably go for a fireball on the right, but at this point he knows he's lost. Dual lane pressure, so much to defend, and that's excellent. So I mean, I hope you enjoyed this quite crazy deck. We did end up getting AK, top 100, and so we are, 70th with that. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed.